Hey guys, this is Jeff Conti, your YouTube knife mentor. This is video number 2 on how to design a knife, and I want to talk a little bit more about drawing in this video. And then some other design techniques or design considerations. So initially, let's talk about straight lines, arcs, curves, and then termination of lines. So let me have my fancy drawing pad here, and I'm using a black pen so that you can see it, not because that's how I draw knives. But anyway, just to, some arcs are relatively pleasing, whereas other arcs, maybe not so much, right? So you play around some with your designs, and then you consider, okay, this belly's a little bit deep, and this line needs to straighten out a little bit more, and I think I want a choil, and so what you want to have right here is a termination, right? You got a termination of this line and this line. So you want to consider these because sometimes, for example, I'll do another design here quickly. And you say, well, I don't want to do a big choil, but I do want to have a small choil where the blade comes through, and then my handle is like so, right? And the reason I want to do this little one is because I want to have my grind line is going to go somewhere in between here. So now I have these 3 terminations right there in the same spot. Well, if you push this line over here to this edge, it's going to look funny, right? So you want to be sure where your lines terminate looks right, and that your arcs look good, and that everything looks proportional too. Here's a good example for you, right? You got a drop point hunter and you got a little bit of a belly there. Whoops, this looks kind of crappy, but anyway, you'll get the idea here shortly. And then you got this great big handle, right? And it's square looking. Well, that looks like crap because I'm trying to draw looking at my camera, but anyway, and then let's see, you got a hand guard coming down, and it just looks like crap because the blade is so big and the blade is so small and the handle's so big. So anyway, you want to be careful with your curves and your arcs. Do things that are enjoyable or appeasing to your eye. Sometimes the lines want to go. Here's a pretty good example, I think. Sometimes, you're coming up, and then you get a little turn, and then you go off, right? And you go, you know what? I don't like that so much. I want to come up, down a little, and then take a dive. So it's a matter of, whoops, I didn't mean for that curve to go in there. It's all in the details, right? Okay, so anyway, do lots of drawing and fool around with what kind of arcs you like and curves you like, stuff like that. Okay, so there's that one. Next, I want to talk about colors and finishes on blades. I'm going to start with my least favorite, which is the flame. And that's basically how your blade looks when it comes out of heat treat. It's not a durable finish. It looks really nice. Geez, I wished I had that with me. I don't. But anyway, maybe I'll try to insert a photo. I'm pretty new to videography, so I don't know if I'll be able to insert a picture. If not, I'll try though. But the colors on the flame look really nice. There's gold and blues and tan and anyway, purple. Looks really pretty, but it's just not durable. It's not strong. You put it in and out of the sheath a few times and it rubs off. My next least favorite is sandblasting. I don't care what kind you're doing. You're going to put some kind of surface denting in your blade. And the thing is you increase the surface area and you're going to have an increased possibility of rusting. So I guess depending on what kind of steel you're using, a semi-stainless or a stainless, you might not have that much problem, but high carbon, you sure are. So as long as your customer knows, or as long as you realize when you do stuff like this, you're increasing your risk in terms of surface contamination. And you got a nice gray color that's nice and even, then you get some rust on it, and now it's turned, that reddy rust color. And if you go try to clean that off, you're going to actually rub through that gray color, and now you're going to have a blotchy surface because you tried to clean the rust out. My next is, these are my favorites up here. Acid wash, I really like it. I think it looks nice. It's not real durable, but it's pretty durable. It's not nearly the same as these two. It's very durable. But it's gray, and it's got some, if you put it in a tumbler with some rocks, you get some of that kind of random scratching. It looks kind of cool. So consider the acid washes. It's not my favorite, but I do like it a lot. One of my apprentices I had made me a knife, and he made me a knife with the acid wash surface finish. And boy, it looks really nice with that palm wood that he put on it. So anyway. The next three are kind of average knife making finishes. The satin finish is where the grind lines are vertical to the axis of the knife. So these your grinding marks are going to go vertical here, and then your hand sanding marks are going this way. So you have two different directions of your sanding marks, and I call that a satin finish. But if you were then to sand those out, and so all your sanding marks were going longitudinal along with your flat, I call that a brushed finish because it looks like a brush has come across it. This is my #1 favorite finish of all. It's very easy to maintain. It looks really sharp. You can tell it's done by hand. It's not just left as a machine finish. And then there's the mirror polish, which a lot of people really like. I like it too, but unfortunately, again, if you get some rust in there, good luck trying to return that to a mirror finish. You have to literally resand all of that rust out of there down to bare metal and then start over getting that mirror finish. And this is after the knife is all done. So, yep. And if you got rust up near the handguard, you're probably not going to get it all out, or you're probably not going to get a mirror finish. And also the crispness of your grind line with a mirror polish, it's really nice when you first do it, but if you have to redo it once or twice or 3 times, you're going to lose that crisp grind line. And then last but not least is Cerakote. I don't like applying this stuff, but it sure looks nice, especially Midnight Bronze with Desert Ironwood. They're just fantastic. It looks really nice. Do I have it with me here? No, I don't. So anyway, but there's Armor Black and there's Olive Green, and yeah, if you want to get crazy, go ahead. I mean, pink and oh, I did a dagger for a lady. She wanted zombie green, so it was more of a electric green color. But anyway, I'm not a fan, and Cerakote is the best of the best, but it's kind of difficult to do. So I need you to consider the effects of your design on your technique and your difficulty. If you do a recurve on a blade where you have this bottom profile line is negative versus the positive, or you could say convex and concave, when you go to grind this, the face of your grinding sanding belt, you're only going to be touching the blade on 2 points. So right here and right here, you're going to have a wave. You're going to get little ripples in your steel because these are the only 2 points in contact. That makes for really tough learning how to grind. So a recurve is going to really be a problem for you. Somewhat similar with a double edge because you have so much to worry about, and false edges are even more difficult than double edges. So consider that. I do have an example there of the double edge. I'm sorry, the false edge. So this is a tactical knife, but you can see that this false edge here is really close to the blade. What, maybe 3/8 of an inch or a 1/2 inch or something. So that's really hard to handle when it comes to doing your grinding. Let's see here, curved plunge line. So if your plunge line right here is a big sweeping curve, this is really difficult to blend in so that it looks nice versus a sharper sharper grind where you have a very little bit of a plunge there. Hollow versus flat. Flat is much easier to do when you're young and new and just getting started. If you don't have a lot of materials, heck, you can even use a file to create a flat ground knife. So, I mean, you know, it doesn't take that much. But a hollow grind, if you have somebody to help you and tutor you a little bit, it looks better and it gives a longer lasting edge, mostly because of the geometry. You can see with a flat ground edge that as you wear the edge back further and further, you wind up with a thicker edge and it gets difficult to sharpen it into a nice edge. Whereas with a hollow grind, you know, this, I didn't do a very good job of that, but this stays at a pretty decent geometry for a sharp edge for a pretty long time compared to the flat grind. So that's something to think about anyway. Thin blades are pretty easy when it comes to flat grinds, and boy, they're a bear if you're doing a hollow grind. So think about that when you're doing your difficulty rating. And then I talked to you about geometry already with the flat grind and the hollow grind. Last but not least are finishes and colors on your handles. Wood that is sanded to 400, specifically the really hard woods like cocobolo and ebony and things like that. Your 400 grit is about as coarse as you want to go. If you're doing maple and stuff like that, 220 is just fine. And then for finishes, penetrating oils versus topical oils. Topical oils lay on the surface, right? Let me stop right here and say, do not, I'll say it again, do not use spray lacquer. If you do, I'm going to tell you I told you so. It's brittle, it chips, it doesn't last, it's not a good handle finish to use. Polyurethane is a topical. It wipes on, you wipe it off. Be sure to wipe it off. Do not leave a heavy coat there. Just wipe it on, let it sit for a few minutes and wipe it off and then let it dry. Take a couple hours, do a little bit of steel wool and add another coat, same thing. But penetrating oils are really nice because while they take a long time for them to cure, they get deeper and their durability is much better than the topicals. They do a really good job at protecting your wood, so consider your penetrating oils. Stabilized and colored woods, geez, you can do almost anything with these things. Micarta and G10. G10 is a fiberglass laminate. Micarta is either paper or linen or canvas. There's a bunch of different, and you can make your own micarta. It's just a poly resin like fiberglass resin. Without the fiberglass, you're using, let's say, jean material or something, and you soak it down and press it all together, all the layers. And you can polish micarta and G10, but it's really super slippery. You can use 36 grit or 100 grit or whatever you want to do with micarta. So anyway, that is my second lesson on how to design a knife. I hope it's been helpful. If you have any questions or thoughts, let me know in the comments below. As for right now, what I want you to do is go out and have fun making a knife.